everyone, welcome back to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi, where we bring to you detailed discussion of important articles from Hindu and Indian Express. Today is 16th of October, also celebrated as World Food Day, and here are the following articles that we shall be covering today. In the first one, we will read about the correlation of water crisis and food security in light of World Food Day. In the second one, as Delhi has felt minor tremors yesterday, we will do detailed analysis of Delhi earthquake. In the third one, we will have detailed study of Enforcement Directorate. And in the fourth one, with regards to the geopolitics of Israel that is going on, we will read about the position of Gaza Strip, which is in global spotlight right now. And in the last one, we will read about Kaziranga National Park. So let's get started. Our first article is covered in light of the theme of the World Food Day that is celebrated on 16th of October. The theme is water is life and water is food. So hereby, we will learn the correlation between food security and the ongoing water crisis across the world and specifically in India. This relates with GS1 part of the syllabus, where we read about changes in the critical sources, especially the water bodies and ice caps. So let's get started. Water is everywhere, but water that is unavailable, water that is unfit for consumption, and water that is insufficient calls for a water crisis. If we see across the globe, we will find total two types of water crisis or water scarcity. One, because there is absolute water scarcity due to lack of water resources, due to lack of water supply. And this kind of water scarcity is known as physical water scarcity. The other part is known as the economic water scarcity. About 1.6 billion people across the world are facing this, and this is because we are lacking the infrastructure, the storage infrastructure, the harvesting infrastructure that is required to contain the supply of the water to suit our demands. Now, if we talk about the issue of water scarcity by number, then first of all, we have seen that water scarcity is mainly because of the unavailability or insufficiency of the water. That is because about 500 million people across the world are living in the regions where their consumption is twice as compared to the amount of replenishment that can be done by nature in that area. Second, we are also seeing that water is everywhere. About more than 70% of the earth's surface is covered with water, and still we are facing water scarcity. What is the reason? The reason is first of all the unavailability of fresh water resources. The total amount of fresh water that is available is less than 3%. So, the rest of the 97.4% is basically saline water, salt water unfit for consumption. Now, the total amount of fresh water that is available with us is also bifurcated into multiple sources in which it is stored. 72% of this is in frozen forms, in the form of glaciers. So again, not very viable for consumption. Then, the next part, that is 28.15% is stored in the form of groundwaters. Yes, it is available for consumption, but it is also getting depleted very quickly because the replenishment rate is quite low. And then, only 0.3% of the water, fresh water, is available in the surface water bodies like lakes, rivers, etc. So therefore, we are naturally constrained by the availability of water. Now, the grievance of water crisis is such that among the three most daunting concerns of humanity that is going on right now, water crisis finds third place. So the first one is a weapon of mass destruction. Second is extreme weather events. And third is water crisis. How do we actually measure whether water crisis is prevalent or not? So statistically, it is measured in the form of Falkenmark Water Index. It calculates the amount of water availability per capita consumption. So whenever this consumption is less than 1700 cubic meter per year, then that particular area is said to be undergoing water crisis. If we go by this index, then about 79% of the total area of India is going through water crisis. A classic example being that of Chennai, being that of Bengaluru, which have recently faced the 0 day. 0 day or day zero, which stands for a situation where the resources which are containing the fresh water have become depleted as compared to the ongoing demand of that region. So this is the grievance, this is the gravity of water crisis that is going on. What are the reasons of water crisis? So first of all is the poor rate of replenishment, natural recharge. Why is it so? Because there is largely uneven distribution of rainfall. Rainfall is coming in India in the form of monsoon. Monsoon varies spatially and temporally. What do I mean by that? About 70% of the total monsoon that is received by India is received only in the 4 months from June to September. Second is the spatial variation. While we know that there are certain regions like Kerala and Meghalaya which are over flooded by the monsoon, there are some other regions which are facing drought during monsoon. These are your Rajasthan and Gujarat region. So therefore there is uneven replenishment of the water across India due to monsoon or due to the erratic nature of monsoon. This also hampers the food security because 60% of the total net sown area of the India is actually rain-fed in nature. And this net sown area is responsible for producing 40% of the total crops of India, total food production of India. So naturally, our food security is also compromised because of the uneven distribution of rainfall. Second reason is the over extraction of groundwater. Now we cannot really rely upon monsoon as we know because of its erratic nature. So definitely we will be going for some artificial means, that is irrigation. Now irrigation would require over pumping of the or over drilling of the groundwater sources. As a result of this, Central Groundwater Board has flagged the concern that states like Punjab, where green revolution is prevalent, it is possible that about 100 meters of their groundwater will get depleted by year 2030. Such is the gravity of over extraction of groundwater in India. Next is the inefficient water management. Even if there is availability of water, there is not proper distribution networks. There is not proper irrigation network. In fact, World Bank has highlighted that 50% of the total irrigated water goes into waste because of the lack of infrastructure, because of lack of maintenance and wastage. So therefore, because of lack of storage structures, we are not able to utilize the existing water in hand. Next, there is rapid urbanization and rapid industrialization. Water is a natural resource. Naturally, it is limited in nature. It is not growing exponentially as compared to the amount of growth population is seeing, especially in the urban areas. Now, as a result of this, the industrial needs, the municipal needs or the domestic needs, the agricultural needs are also going up. As a result of this, the demand is going up exponentially high as compared to the replenishment rate of the water. Not only this rapid urbanization is also leading to creation of unfit pocket of waters because of the pollution that they are causing. So, from agricultural activities, we give off fertilizer waste, pesticide waste. Then from municipal and domestic wastes, we have sewage that is dumped into the water. From the industrial activities, we have got heavy metals and other chemicals which are dumped into the water, making it largely unfit for the consumption. So the water bodies that are existing, especially around the urban areas, are getting polluted. For example, the Meethi River, which is said to be the most polluted river of India, is lying in the basin of Mumbai city. Then you have your Yamuna bank, which is getting polluted because of the activities of Delhi NCR. So, pollution is another reason why water is getting scarce. Next is the impact of climate change. Now, this is a point which we need to understand clearly. See, climate change is altering the weather phenomena across the world. It is associated with global warming. Now, as a result of global warming, other climatic and weather patterns like heat waves, like El Nino, these are becoming more frequent. Now, you know what is the impact of El Nino in Indian monsoon? Indian monsoon gets lowered because of the creation of high pressure in the Indian Ocean region due to the El Nino. And this is the reason why in the September 2023, it was found that the total amount of rainfall received was 11% less than the long period average. Why? Because 2023 is naturally, as we know as, the El Nino year. So, climate change and the related events is also exacerbating the water crisis that is going on. Next are the faulty government policies. Now, government is ruthlessly trying to incentivize the water intensive crops like paddy, like wheat. And now because of this, because of the minimum support price that is given on such water intensive crops, because of the electricity subsidies that are given to the green revolution belt, which is leading them to over drilling of the or over exploitation by using pumps in the agricultural fields. So these are some of the policies which are leading to over exploitation of the water table, the underground table. Not only that, Indian government has been very discordant when it comes to reaping or sowing the right crop in the right place. Why am I saying so? Because there are crops, water intensive crops like paddy and sugarcane, which are being grown in less fertile areas like the soil of Punjab, Haryana, and your Maharashtra. These soils are not very fertile. Naturally, the amount of water they will be demanding will be more. Naturally, you have to overexploit the water table in order to get them irrigated. So therefore, the wrong choice of crop is also one of the reason and one of the government policies which is leading to water crisis in the country. Now, how is water crisis leading to food insecurity? First and foremost, crops basically depend upon water. So when the water table goes down, when the availability of water goes down, naturally the agricultural productivity or the crop yields also go down. If the current rate of water depletion is taken into account, then FAO, that is Food and Agriculture Organization, has predicted that about 50% at the current rates of depletion of water, 50% of the total crop yield will go down. Now, this particular editorial also highlights that according to a simulation study by the Government of India, it was found that by the year 2050, if the current rates of water depletion goes on, then the crop yield of paddy will go down to about 20% and the crop yield of wheat will go down to about 19.3%, flagging a huge concern for the existing food security of the country. Next is, it will also limit the crop diversity. Naturally, when the water as a resource is in competition, the farmer will try to divert all the available water into more economically incentivizing crops. For example, I'm getting paid more for the MSP in rice. So I will be diverting all my water to feed the rice as compared to pulses, as compared to millets, as compared to oilseed. As a result of this, the nutritional security of the nation will also get compromised because now the surplus production of such water intensive and economically benefit crops will take place over the nutrient rich crops like millets. So the food diversity, the crop diversity will also get compromised. Next, increased food prices. Now, first of all, because there is lack of water supply, therefore the supply side shocks will start occurring in the production system. Not only that, not only the failure of crops will be there, but also there will be increased production cost because now I will be requiring more irrigation. Irrigation cost will go up. As a result of this, the overall production cost will go up, and as a result of this, the demand and supply disequilibrium will happen, and therefore inflation in the food prices will happen, making the people poor. And as a result of this, they will not be able to afford food, again hampering the food security of the country. Next is their impact on livestock and fisheries because of the drying rivers, polluting lakes. The livestock, the fisheries is also getting compromised, and according to a data of FAO, about 30% of the total global population and 70% of the coastal economy is directly dependent upon their protein intake, their nutritional intake upon the fisheries. So naturally, again, especially the coastal areas are going to get gravely impacted because of this. Next is migration and conflict. These are going to be forced migration because of the competition of resources, because of the lack of food supply, lack of water availability. People will try to move into another places. As a result of this, the competition among the resources will again go up in the region where migration has taken place. Now again, as a result of this, the conflicts will start taking place. And an example of this is the Tigris-Euphrates region, where such condition was seen, such cases of conflict were seen because of the hampered food security, hampered food production due to water crisis in the region. So then what can be the way forward? How to address the water scarcity? First of all, we need to improve the water efficiency, the existing water that is there. We need to make sure that we're using it efficiently. How to do that? First of all, incorporate technologies. Technologies like Internet of Things, so that whenever water flow overflow happens across my irrigation system, I will be alarmed with the help of sensors, with the help of this IoT technology. Next would be remote sensing. With the help of this, the farmer will be able to better predict the weather phenomena and will be able to take up irrigation practices or the amount of irrigation accordingly. Next is the use of artificial intelligence in order to make sure that I am also regulating and monitoring the amount of crop water intake. So water intake can be monitored using artificial intelligence. Next would be to have efficient and robust supply and distribution networks of the water channels so that the water surplus areas and water deficit areas can be interconnected with each other. Next, water treatment, especially the wastewater treatment, needs to be done so that the existing freshwater bodies do not get polluted, and also we can reuse and recycle the water. Next is to have storage infrastructure, for example, water harvesting structures in order to store the water that is coming from monsoons. For example, Mission Kakatiya, that is by Telangana government, is one welcoming step in right direction. Next would be to expand the water sources. Right now we are taking water mostly from underground sources. Now we need to diversify. How can we do? By using water harvesting structures like ahar pine structures, like bamboo drip irrigation systems. Not only that, we can also try to convert, and this is especially useful for the coastal communities. We can try to convert the saline sea water into fresh water using desalinization plants. And one good case study of a country that is already doing this is Israel. So we can learn from Israel how to create desalinization plants. Next, to protect the water resources. How to protect the water resources? By protecting the ecosystem that filters the water, that protects the water, that recharges the water. This could be your soil ecosystem, your forest ecosystem, especially the wetlands. The riparian buffers needs to be built. The concretization needs to go down. So these are some of the methods through which we can protect the existing water resources. Next, by changing the water policy so that we can moderate the incentives, the amount of incentives that we are providing. For example, MSP needs to be diversified more towards oilseeds, pulses, especially millets, so that such crops are also economically incentivized. Next would be to cut down the electricity subsidy that is given, especially in the green revolution belt. Also, government needs to make sure that diversification of the crop is done in line of the rainbow revolution that was suggested by M.S. Swaminathan. Next, also we need to develop climate resilient agriculture, because now we need to also start adapting to the ongoing climate change which is exacerbating the crisis. Now, how to do that? First of all, to develop drought resilient agriculture. Two methods of doing this would be to create drought resilient seeds, especially the paddy seeds which are water intensive. So one such example is the Swarna Sub 1, which is created in India. Next would be to conduct a system of rice incentivization that is followed by Madagascar. Also, we can now shift to millet economy and also to do away with the harmful effects of the climate change, especially like the heat waves. We need to grow agriculture in consonance with the forest ecosystem. So agroforestry is again another important way forward. So this is how we will be able to ensure that food security is maintained even if the water crisis is going on, and the water crisis can be minimized at the same time. Coming to the next article, here we will talk about Delhi earthquakes. Why is Delhi vulnerable to earthquake? What are earthquakes? So what is happening? The context is that minor tremors were felt of magnitude 3.1 in Delhi yesterday. So in light of this, we will study what are earthquakes. So earthquakes are a form of natural disaster, natural hazard where shaking or trembling of the earth's surface takes place. Why is the earth surface getting trembled? Naturally, because of the release of energy. Where is this energy coming from? This energy is coming from lithosphere because of the interaction of the two moving plates. Now, the entire lithosphere is actually fragmented into vast tectonic plates. These tectonic plates are floating into a semi-solid substance which is called asthenosphere. As a result of their gradual or gradient movement, they rub off each other. And as a result of this, stress gets accumulated between the boundaries. Suppose these are two plates, and because of the rubbing off, because they are floating in the asthenosphere, stress starts getting accumulated. The moment this stress gets a venting channel, an escape channel to move out the energy, it spreads in the form, it causes sudden release of the energy, and this energy spreads in all direction in the form of P waves and S waves. The waves which are recorded foremost in the seismograph are called the primary waves, and the second to come waves are called as the secondary waves, which are more destructive in nature, the secondary waves. Why? Because the wave direction, suppose this is the direction of wave in the Earth's crust. Now, what about the movement of particle? If this movement of particle is perpendicular to the direction of wave propagation, then these are called to be S waves or secondary waves. Now, as a result of this, they causes more distortion in the crust or in the lithosphere, causing more destruction as compared to primary waves, in which the particle movement is in direction or is in 180-degree alignment with the direction of wave of propagation. Therefore, they are not that destructive in nature. So once we have understood about earthquakes, now let's analyze why Delhi as such is prone to earthquake, because we've been seeing a lot of earthquakes coming here. The first reason is its proximity to Himalayas. What has Himalayas got to do with it? As I have told you, earthquakes takes place because of relative movement of the tectonic plates with each other. Now, there are two tectonic plates largely which influences the formation of Himalayas. First is the Indo-Australian plate, which is moving in northward direction, and the second is the Eurasian plate, which is moving in the eastern direction. Now, as a result of this, the convergence between these two plates takes place nearly where the Himalayas formation can be seen. Now, because this convergent limb is close to where Delhi is located, as a result of this, this particular region of Delhi is also highly prone to earthquakes. So in the seismic zone classification that is provided by the Bureau of Indian Standards, it can be seen that 59% of the total geographical area of India is vulnerable to earthquake, but it is broadly divided into 4 seismic zones depending upon the vulnerability of earthquake. So Delhi basically lies in the high risk zone, in the zone 4, as you can see. Earlier, there were 5 zones, but later BIS subsumed zone number 1 and zone number 2, and now we have only 4 total seismic zones in India. So please make sure that you do not incorporate 5 zones in your mains answer writing. So anyway, Delhi comes in the 4th zone. As you can see over here, therefore, it has got high vulnerability to the seismic waves. Next, Delhi is also lying in the epicenter or in the fold of a lot of faults. Faults are the escape zone where the energy or the seismic waves find it very easy to penetrate outside the crust. Now, what are these fault lines? First of all is the Sohna fault, then there is Mathura line fault, then there is Delhi-Moradabad fault line. As you can see, this is Moradabad one. This is Mathura fault, this is Sohna fault. Now, as a result of these faults which are lying very, very close to Delhi, very, very close to the Aravalli ridges, as a result of this, Delhi generally sees earthquakes. Next is anthropogenic reasons. These are the man-made reasons. Why the earthquake as a hazard has been turned into disaster is because of our faulty policies. First is the non-compliant buildings, buildings that are not compliant with the building rules and regulations, that the bylaws that are given by BIS. Now, as a result of this, it not only makes the life and the property vulnerable to the earthquakes, but it also creates a lot of damage, a lot of unprecedented damage. As you can see, especially in the region of Vazirabad, if you have ever visited, that a lot of buildings have been congested and clogged up with very, very narrow lanes. So the moment a fault triggers, the moment the seismic wave triggers that region, it is highly likely that all the buildings will collapse within each other. So This is one reason that we have got some architectural issues with planning of Delhi. Second is the limited access route. Now, the moment you want to escape or you want to diverge whenever the scenario of an earthquake has propelled, in that particular case, you would be needing some pedestrian route, some routes to have your vehicles. So, that particular route is very much restricted and constricted in case of Delhi. As you can see, a lot of traffic jams going on. So because of, again, poor planning. So poor planning, poor architectural design is the reason why the hazard of earthquake is created as a disaster, converted as a disaster in Delhi. So what can we do about it? We know that earthquake is something that cannot be prevented. It is a natural hazard, but yes, we can get prepared. And the best way to prepare ourselves is to prepare the community. So enhancing public awareness regarding earthquake, how to react during earthquake is the first thing. Second, we have to prepare them. How to do that? What government has been doing? First of all, government has been taking some e-governance initiatives in order to promote the awareness and preparedness. This is done through Abda Mitra scheme. This is developed by NDMA. The next is India Quake app, again, to ensure that this is a kind of early warning system in place in order to ensure that people are made aware about the seismic zones, about the commencement of earthquake, if any. Second, learning from the best case practices. For example, in the state of California, we see earthquake drills that are being conducted in the schools and the colleges, and these drills are called the Great Shakeout in order to prepare the community, especially the students, the children. Also, Delhi has built Emergency Operations Center in line with the Sendai framework in order to coordinate the earthquake response that is necessary. Next would be to have building codes and standards that are compliant with the Sendai framework. Also, making sure that the critical infrastructure and the existing infrastructure is retrofitted. For example, the Central Vista building. The old Parliament building was vulnerable to earthquake, but the current one is retrofitted. Next, we also need to reinforce the existing infrastructure. Now, we have to follow Sendai framework for this. We also have to learn from Tokyo how, being a very country or a city which is highly vulnerable to earthquake, has set up one of the world's tallest building in compliance with the earthquake protection. So the Skytree building model can be replicated in India as well. Next, the Wellington Lifelines project of New Zealand, where they are trying to upgrade and retrofit all the existing critical infrastructure like your transport lines, atomic infrastructure, defense infrastructure, etc. Next, emergency response and planning. So whenever earthquake has struck the region, we have to make sure that rapid deployment of NDRF, SDRF is done on time. Next, temporary housing is done to provide shelters and rehabilitation to the grievanced people. Next, infrastructure repair efforts should be commenced as soon as possible. Next, we also need to make sure that research and monitoring is done in the field of earthquakes so that better prediction models can be created. And also, last but not the least, we need to make sure that land use planning is in coherence with the hazard zonation. So which means the areas which are highly susceptible to getting earthquake are the areas where developmental activities should be toned down. So these are the following ways in which India can be made prepared for earthquakes. In the next one, we will read about Enforcement Directorate. What is the context over here? ED has provisionally attached assets as a part of money laundering probe against the NCP Member of Parliament. Now, what is Enforcement Directorate? Enforcement Directorate is basically premier financial investigation agency of the Government of India, which is responsible for taking care of two things. First, the money laundering, and to take care of any invasion of the foreign exchange laws in India, to take care of these two things which also cost the exchequer because they causes loss in revenue. So therefore, Enforcement Directorate was created. Now naturally, since it has got a bearing on the revenue, therefore this particular unit, specialized unit, is under the Department of Revenue of Ministry of Finance. Now let's study about the structures of Enforcement Directorate. It is headquartered in Delhi with 5 regional quarters, 5 regional offices in Mumbai, Chennai, Chandigarh, Kolkata and Delhi. How is the recruitment done? There is no special exam for ED. Rather, officers that are recruited through IAS, IPS and IRS from different investigation agencies like CBI, etc. They are recruited in the ED. Next, what is their tenure? So largely their tenure is of 2 years, but under recent amendments that were made for CBI and ED, the extension was made up to 5 years. So now central government on its discretion can have or can give 3 annual extensions up to 5 years. So now the tenure is of about 2 to 5 years in the case of ED and CBI. What are the functions that are performed by Enforcement Directorate? First of all, it enforces foreign exchange laws. What are the foreign exchange laws in India? First is the Conservation of Foreign Exchange and Prevention of Smuggling Activities Act of 1974. Next, it also sponsors cases of preventive detention with regards to the FEMA Act, Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. Next, it also helps in the prevention of money laundering. What is money laundering? It is a process by which people try to clean their dirty money that is derived from illegal activities like drug trafficking. And they launder that money, they clean that money so that it appears to be coming from legal sources or legal channels. So, prevention of money laundering, in this, it traces the assets that are derived from the proceeds of crime, say drug trafficking or say smuggling or say misuse of cryptocurrencies. Then it provisionally attaches the property. Then it ensures the prosecution of the offenders, and it also ensures that confiscation of property is done by the special court that is created within Enforcement Directorate. Next function is the enforcement of Fugitive Economic Offender Act of 2018. Who is a fugitive economic offender? A person who has ran out of the jurisdiction of India in order to escape the Indian laws. So, ED has the power to attach and confiscate the properties of that person in the India and also in any other country if the bilateral agreement is created between ED and the other other country's government. Now, what are the issues related to Enforcement Directorate? First of all, huge discretion and autonomy that is given to them. They do not need to seek permission of the government before initiating the prosecution of any cases. Next is the lack of transparency. It has been seen of late that a lot of prosecutions that are done by ED is mostly belonging to the people who are from the opposition parties. Second, the conviction rate of ED has also been pretty low. If we see the records from 2005 to 2015, we can observe that the conviction rate that was done by the ED was literally zero. And from 2015 to 2023, it was seen that out of the 888 cases that were convicted by ED, only 23 were found to be guilty. So that is the rate of conviction. Next, political partisanship or political bias. It is also observed that if a person moves its affiliation towards a ruling party or if it's joined the ruling party, then the ED starts going slow with the cases that are imposed on the person. So this is also a case of political bias. These are some of the issues that are plaguing the ED which needs serious reforms. So what are the reforms suggested? First of all, in order to ensure transparency, effective utilization of resources across the departments, and effective transfer of information, we need to make sure that enhanced coordination between different agencies is also done. So agencies like police, agencies like tax authorities, these agencies should be collaborating with ED in order to exchange the information efficiently. Next, advanced data analytics will help to track the cases, will help to track the suspicion rates, and this will help to improve the efficiency and the working of ED. Next would be whistleblower protection and encouragement, so that they come up and they report the financial crimes without any fear. Then to establish a robust whistleblower protection program, have a clearer legal framework to define the scope of the ED, to limit their autonomy so that they do not misuse their powers, they do not misuse their discretion. Next would be to increase the accountability and transparency, because transparency or sunlight is the best of all disinfectants. So ED should be made to submit the reports, and it also should be updating on the progress of the investigations, and they should come in the public light so that the working of ED can be seen by the public, and this will help to enhance the public trust. Next, to reduce the political interference that is going on in ED, and in order to make them politically isolated, what we need to make sure? We need to make sure that the appointments and the removals of ED officials are done in a transparent manner. So this is how ED can be reformed. Now coming to the next topic, here we will discuss about the Gaza Strip and the geopolitics of Israel. What is the context? The recent escalation between Hamas militants and Israel government has brought the Gaza Strip to the global spotlight. This is especially important for prelims where places in news can be asked. So first of all, let's learn about the overall physical features of Israel. So Israel basically is inundated by a very prominent river, which is the lifeline of Israel. This is known as the Jordan River. Jordan River originates from the anti-Lebanon mountains, or also known as the Hermon Mountains. There are 3 total streams which originate from these mountains. These are Hasbani River, the Dan River and the Hermon River. These 3 converges to form the Jordan River. Now this Jordan River shares boundary or drains not only Lebanon but also Syria, the Strait of Jordan, which is named after the river, and the West Bank and Israel. It drains into the Dead Sea. Where is the Jordan River flowing into? It is flowing through the Great Rift Valley, and meanwhile it flows through the Sea of Galilee. It flows, then finally drains to the most saline lake of the world, where one cannot drown, will always sink, that is the Dead Sea. So it drains into Dead Sea. This is about Jordan River. Now because a particular territory is to the left of the Jordan River, this contested territory is therefore named as West Bank. And this is under Palestine people. So if we broadly see what is the demarcation of Israel and Palestine, then we will see that in the western part there is Golan Heights, which is acquired by Israel from Syria. Then there is Western Bank, and there is Gaza Strip, which is basically accommodated by the Palestinian people. The rest of the Israel, including the Jerusalem, is claimed by Israeli people, and the Sinai Peninsula, which Israel initially captured from Egypt, which is now returned back to it, the Sinai Peninsula, this is now completely autonomous, it belongs to Egypt. Now coming to the Gaza Strip. Now Gaza Strip, as you can see, is this small strip, a very contested region within Israel, which is lying to the eastern coast of Mediterranean Sea. This region is also known as the open air prison because there's nowhere to go. All the boundaries are captured. How? So if you observe this map of Gaza, you will see that there are three borders. The southern border is captured by Egypt. The northeastern one is captured by Israel. And even the border which is to the west, that is which goes through the Mediterranean Sea, is also captured by Israel. So there are only 3 openings through which a person from Gaza can move outside. These are the Erez crossing, the Kerem Shalom goods crossing and the Rafah crossing. These are the only 3 areas. So how do people move? How do the Hamas militants, which are basically having political power in the region of Gaza, how are they moving? They are moving through tunnel movements. And the border security is so harsh, as you can see from this infographic, that this is the state of Israel and this is Gaza, and you will see multiple layers of blockading that is done by Israel in order to completely isolate the Gaza Strip. Now, what is the capture story of Gaza? First of all, Gaza right now is only under the blockades of Israel. Israel is not holding Gaza right now. So what happened? In the year of 1967, a 6-day war broke out between Arab and Israel. This war was participated by Israel versus Egypt, Arab countries like Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. Now, when this war ended, it led to great expansion of Israel's territory because of its capturing of multiple places. So, for example, it captured the Golan Heights from Syria, it captured the Western Bank, it captured Jerusalem. It also shifted its capital to Jerusalem, which was considered as a place of holy place of the Palestinian people. Then it also captured the Gaza Strip from the Egypt. Now, it also had captured Sinai. Now, as we know, Sinai was restored back to Egypt under the peace treaty that was made in 1979. So, in the year 1982, you will see Sinai Peninsula restored back to Egypt. But what about Gaza? It was not restored back, rather blockade, that is, imposition on the movement or restrictions on the movement of goods and people was made by Israel on the Gaza Strip. So this is why Gaza is largely contested. What is the political power over here? This is the Hamas militants. So this was a brief detail about Jordan River, about Israel geography and the Gaza Strip. Coming to the last topic of the day, here we will discuss about a very important protected area which has been recently reopened, and also a library has been set into it. This is the Kaziranga National Park. Now, Kaziranga National Park, if you observe from the map, is located here. And what is more important is to also understand the dimensions or the chronology from east to west of the multiple protected areas of Assam. So as you can see, it starts with Manas Wildlife Sanctuary, then comes the Orang National Park, then there is Kaziranga National Park, then there is Dibru Saikova National Park in the most eastern part. So this you have to remember for prelims point of view. Now what is the location? It lies in the Brahmaputra floodplain, and this is the single largest undisturbed and representative area of the Brahmaputra plain, containing of the big fours, the keystone species. These species are rhinoceros. It has got 2/3 of the world population of Indian rhinoceros in it. Also, it has got Indian elephants, Royal Bengal tiger, and Asiatic water buffalo. All of them are threatened animals, threatened species. Now, what is the legal status? Kaziranga National Park is not only an important bird site, but it is also UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is also a national park, also a tiger reserve. So it was dedicated or designated as a national park in 1974, then a tiger reserve in 2007, a UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 1985, and also designated as an important bird area. So this is the importance of this particular biodiversity area. What are the threats that are existing in Kaziranga? First of all, it goes through a lot of flooding due to the Brahmaputra plain. Second is the rapid poaching or the increased poaching, especially of the Indian rhinoceros, and then the rapid urbanization, due to which man and wildlife conflict can be often seen going in the Kaziranga National Park. Okay. What is the means of transport and what is the river that is passing through it? So apart from Brahmaputra, there is the Dhiplu river, which is passing through Kaziranga National Park and also passes the National Highway number 37. This was all about today's newspaper analysis. Thank you so much. I hope you liked the discussion. Have a nice day.